The team has a few objectives for today's webinar. Firstly, we will look at how you can utilize all capabilities of goals to engage in a dynamic process based on evaluator feedback and personal experience. We will also explore the connection between the student growth goal, data analysis, evaluation, and reflection. We will explore how users can collaborate with appraisers to determine goal completion. We will also look at how messages can be used to capture conversations involving feedback and coaching. And last but not least, we will look at how this goal process can inform professional learning opportunities. And this will be the agenda that we will follow today. We will be going over the goal setting process, planning for your goals, crafting the goals, supporting your goals, and reflection and archiving. Just as a reminder, this presentation will be provided in the follow-up email that will be sent out to everyone. And with that, I would like to send it over to Allison to get us started. Allison, take it away.
Thank you so much, Armando. Hey, everyone. It's great to be back with y'all on our webinar Wednesday. We're so glad y'all are here with us. So we're talking about goals. And if you have ever been in a training with me, I give the same joke every time, but it always lands really well. So everybody needs goals. They're very important. Be like I-35, never stop working on yourself. So, and that always changes depending on where we are. I know that the Dallas folks say 20, our South Texas folks say I-10, like we totally get that. But it's true. We all want to just continue working on ourselves and setting those goals. And sometimes it's a really daunting process. And so today, Paige and I, with the help of Armando, we're really breaking that down for y'all and all the things to consider. It's in a really simplified way to think about it because school is rolling. You have so much going on. And so we want to make sure that we lay out a really intuitive and easy to follow process as you're putting your goals into Strive. So first I want to walk y'all through what our goal setting process looks like. This is the life cycle of a goal. And this is it according to the process that we have laid out for you in Eduphoria and Strive. So it's a 6-step process. And so the first step is on our appraisees. They create the goal. We're going to walk you through all the things to consider as you are thinking about what kind of goal do I want to make? Where are my strengths? Where are my areas of growth? Once you have that considered, we move it into step 2, where the appraisee submits the goal to the appraiser. And this is a field that is within Strive during your professional or student growth goal wizard. But during this step, in step 2, the appraiser can still add things to the goal. Things are still editable. However, when we move to step 3, the fields are no longer editable. If you want to add to that goal, you'll need to apply for resubmission, or you'll need to copy it to a new goal and make a new one. That's definitely a conversation to have with your appraiser. But appraisers are responsible for evaluating the goals, asking questions, and really setting up and evaluating the plan for the goal, including action steps that make it something that is achievable. We really recommend during steps 2, 3, 4, actually all of them, to really use the messages feature that we're going to show y'all to have those conversations about the goal, ask clarifying questions, both from the appraiser side and the appraisee side, using the messages feature to keep everybody on the same page. I don't know about y'all, but my inbox can be a hot mess sometimes. And so I really like that the messages feature keeps the dialogue and the productive conversation in one spot so that all parties are kept on the same page, as well as time stamping. All right, so let's look back at our life cycle of a goal. We stopped off on my little tangent number 3. Let's look at step 4. Step 4 is where our appraisee does what our appraisee does best, and that means they are doing their great work of education. They're working on their goal, they're collecting evidence, and they're constantly communicating with their appraiser regarding that goal. Again, this is where messages comes in really helpful to both the appraiser and the appraisee on that communication of the goals process. Step 5 is whenever the appraisee goes, you know what, I've met all of my marks for this goal and I'm going to mark it complete. And then in step 6 is a great time for conversation where we can go back and look at that dialogue created on messages. We can also take a look and see if the goal is complete. What gains did we make? Really have that reflective conversation. At the end of step 6, that's when the goal can either be archived or resubmitted with more data, or copied into another goal that can be used for next year. So maybe you've got something going on that you want to continue setting your goals for. Maybe it's a certain avenue of your craft as an educator. You can continue making these goals into a series by just copying that information into the goal. All right, and I do see we have a question in the chat. Who archives the goals? The archive is done at your district level each year. So your Eduphorian archives the goal. You can also set it to be archived as well, but usually we recommend all districts archiving. So we want to, so that is a district level decision that usually happens over the summer. All right. Let's talk about, as we talked about in step one, like, where do I set this goal? You are thinking about, what do I need to repair? Again, if you are anything, if you've been on a training with me before, you know that your girl likes to cook. I'm born and raised in Louisiana, so I love cooking. And so we are going to compare all of our preparation to goal set. Shocker, we're going to make something. And so let's talk about the ingredients. So we're going to make a quiche. And so, because I've really been into quiches lately. And so we're going to talk about all the ingredients we have to have set up to make that quiche. And so when we think about all those ingredients, we need to go get them together. So where are we going to get all of our ingredients that are going to make up the information we're going to reflect upon to make that goal? So let's look at some of the spots that we've recommended for y'all to take a look and trying to determine where the goal should go. Like, where should we head with this goal? I love these focus questions just because they guide the educator through all the different facets that can be big facets of information or small facets to really think about, like, where should I start? So one of the things that I think about immediately are, where are my areas of reinforcement and refinement? Where did I really shine? Where did I really not feel comfortable? Sometimes when addressing those pieces within yourself and reflecting on where you should focus your goal, really do a kind of a inventory of your feelings on your skill set. Was there a skill that you practiced last year, where there's a lesson you taught last year that you didn't feel comfortable with? Like, maybe that's going to be where your goal lies. Take a look at your summative evaluations on your lowest rated dimensions. That data alone can tell you where to focus your attention on. Do you have focus areas or standards for your students? Like, when we're thinking about both our student growth goal, in some of our professional goal, but with our student growth goal, are there areas and standards that we're trying to focus on? When I taught seventh grade history, it's always going to be maps, graphs, and charts, and inferencing. That was always my goal. And if you've ever taught social studies, you know that that is a huge skill to build within our students. And so when you're thinking about those areas, what are you focusing on with your students? Are there district initiatives or campus priorities to consider? Y'all, we've all come off of our convocation, our big goals for the year as a district. Are there elements there that we need to add into those questions as we're doing this sort of inventory of information with our own, with what we captured, what we reflected on? The next spot that we can think about is our own self-assessment and data. So this is part of your, some of you have this as part of your self-assessment prior to creating your professional and student growth goal within your appraisal process. So if you're an appraisee, you're probably seen this before. If your district has elected to use this particular template, but this walks you through kind of going, okay, here's some different areas for data that I could gather and make these determinations for where I should make my goal. So let me think through some of those and designate which ones I'm going to be using to gather data from. We also have in our self-assessment a place for you to do your own reflection and a really kind of nice framework that guides you through thinking through the different areas, as well as where you, as well as your different domains. And so you've got some things in this is self-assessment that can guide you through the actual, it'd be like a little preset before you actually delve into your growth goals, be it performance or professional or student. If you're an appraiser or a district administrator on this webinar and you're like, wow, this is a really great self-assessment, I would really like to know about how to get this into my system, please email us at training@eduphoria.net and we can help you get this into your system. Again, these are this particular self-assessment is available in our Eduphoria community under reflective documents, and you can import it into your system, add it to your appraisee process, and roll on down the road with some great data. All right. Now that we've kind of thought about where we're headed with different places we can think about, we talked about reflection, we talked about places that we can look for our data to craft our goals. So we've kind of assembled some really nice ingredients for our quiche. So let's start adding it in together. But like if you know anything about cooking, you'll know eggs can be really tricky. So you don't want to put like hot vegetables into cold egg. And if you don't know why, you've got some Food Network to catch up on. So let's talk about how we want to put all these ingredients together. So let's take a look at what we actually fill out in Strive. So when we create our goal. So we do have the parts of the goal. Some of you may have heard an acronym around this parts of a goal, but this is just good intelligence, like SMART goal setting, if you will. So in the very beginning, you really want to be specific about the what, how, and why of your goal. You want to make this information that is in verbiage accessible to both you and your appraisee. Try not to be super lofty or super vague. You want to make sure that this is an authentically created goal that really helps you guide your own growth as an educator. We also have the time-bound element in there. It's always good to set a goal and set yourself a time that you want to have it completed. But we also have, if you pop down to the bottom, you'll see that we have a place for action steps. And as an administrator, action steps were what I really drew my attention into, because these were going to be those like milestones that we're going to hit as we are on our way to achieve our goal. I kind of harken this back to Nintendo. Like you've got to go up the little steps. Let's go with Nintendo World 1, where you jump on the flagpole and then go down the flagpole and then you get to the castle. So those action steps are going to be the steps with the flagpole. Any children of the 80s and 90s out there? So the action steps are where you will at least need to have one, but it shows that you're taking the necessary steps to achieve this goal. Your success criteria should be almost like a narrative or with a quantifiable piece in there that really shows what does this look like when it is in play. Do I have X percentage of students that are able to achieve a certain performance? Or is it, do I have a certain percentage of students, performing at this level? Maybe it's about communication and I have a certain amount of responses received from communication from the school. So wherever your goal lies, whatever avenue, take a look at success criteria so that it's really telling the story of what this looks like. It's results focused. All right. So we talked about how to prepare our ingredients to make our quiche. I do want to talk to you about um, how to create these professional and student growth goals. And so within Eduphoria, if you do not have this feature in your appraisal process, so if you're listening to this webinar as an appraisee and you're like, well, I don't have goals in there, maybe that's something you need to talk to your appraisers about. For those of you that are appraisers on this call, or your district administration that determines your appraisal process, this is what our goals look like, the wizard, if you will, on how to set the goals. You'll see some parity between professional and student growth. You'll notice that the biggest difference is that we ground your professional goal with standards and tags tied to T-tests. Whereas in your growth goal, your student growth goal, those are all grounded in student and content standards. So you'll notice that you'll want to make sure that with whatever goal you're making, that it aligns to your practices as both a teacher and by the standards by which we teach our students. So the cool thing about our goal setting wizards is they're truly our wizards. They're going to like walk you through everything you need to learn about. But today we have a real treat because Paige is going to show us these elements in play. She's going to walk us through what these goals look like whenever we're actually doing one in the system. So I'm going to turn it over to Paige.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to jump over into Strive. So I'm in as a teacher right now, and I'm going to go to my evaluation process, and I would go to goal setting. And if I was doing a brand new goal, I would push the plus sign here, and I would get that wizard that Allison was talking about, where it walks me through what I have to put in each one of the boxes. And then I would create my goal at the bottom. It does require you to fill out anything that says required. So up at the top, the goal statement is required, the success criteria and dates are required, and you have to have at least one action item before it will allow you to complete your goal. So once you get those items on there, you would click complete professional goal, and then it's going to put it in your system. So like the magic of TV where they put the casserole in and pull a new one out that's already baked, I'm going to open up that goal that has just gone through the wizard, and now it's in our system. I can still edit it. I can still click on any of these boxes and work on my goal a little bit further. But I am looking at it in a different view where I have access to the whole system. One of the things I wanted to mention is in the goal statement up here, you'll notice that I have the year at the top. And that is one of the things that we do recommend, that you put in the year for your professional goal and also add the grade level and subject to your student growth goal. So in this example, you can see that it's a student growth goal. It has the year, and then it has the subject area and grade level. English 2 is going to be my grade level. So I can see all of that information in the goal statement. That's going to help both your appraisers to find the information about who's measuring students in what subject area. And it's also going to help teachers to find their goals in their archive files. So we recommend having the year in both and the subject area and grade level in the student growth goals. So I have done that here. This is a professional goal. So I have my year in there. I have my statement. As I'm going through this, I can continue to work on it, to perfect it. When I think it's done and I'm ready, I can go up here and click submit for approval. And that's going to send it on to my appraiser. They're going to take a look at it and they're going to decide if it really is ready. Allison mentioned the messages section previously. They can message me back and say, hey, in your success criteria, you need to add XYZ, or have you thought about including something? So they can give you some coaching conversations here in the messaging where they give you ideas or ask you questions. And also teachers can send messages out. I wrote this goal and now I need to find some professional development. Do you have any ideas? So this can be a back and forth communication between appraiser and praisee. That's why it's a great coaching conversation vehicle. And it also documents. So when you type something in there, it's going to document who said it and when it was posted. Well, there'll be a little history up under the word messages that will show all of those previous messages, and then have your box where you can write a new one. So that's a great way for you to keep in touch throughout the process. And that was the first one about keeping the conversation going. Don't want to make sure I covered everything. They can be initiated by either party. They can be used throughout the goal cycle. It is documented with a date and time step, and it does generate an email every time you create a message that tells the recipient you have a message, and they have a link they can click on. They go into the goal, they read the message, and they respond here rather than responding in the email, so that that documentation stays. And you'll notice in this screenshot, you can see the question that came in, and you can see that it was from the principal, and the date and time stamp is there. So that information will be there for every message that goes back and forth in this goal. And that's a great way to keep track of everything. It's hard to keep track of everybody you've talked to about their goals. I also want to talk a little bit about action items. As Allison mentioned, you have to have an action item before you can complete your goal. And so I have more than one here. Maybe one I added when I built the goal, and the others I've added as I've gone along. Even after the goal is approved, and some of the features are locked down, after the goal is approved, I can't edit the goal statement anymore, or the success criteria, or the dates. Well, I shouldn't say that. I can, but I have to reopen the goal and resubmit it for approval if I want to make changes to this part up here, or to the standards. But I can continue to add action items and evidence throughout the entire goal cycle. And so if I do something in class and I realize, hey, that was related to my goal, I can come in here and add it as an action item. Or if I think of something that would be helpful, I can go ahead and plan it for later on in the year, but put that action item on there. When you add an action, it gives you a place here that says date optional. This is like the due date for the action item, not for the goal as a whole. And it is optional, but I'll show you why I recommend. If I go back into the goals and I look at this professional goal, you'll notice we're on a timeline. It's kind of like the map at the mall. We are here on this dotted line. This is where the goal was started, and this was the first thing, the first action item that was listed in that goal. And we've already passed the due date for that, so hopefully I got it done. And then I can see each one of these tick marks is another action item. So as my little dotted line gets closer to one of those tick marks, that's a visual clue to me that I have something I said I was going to do, and I need to go back in and look at it and make sure I'm getting that done. I like having those visual clues when I go in and look at my goal, or go in and look at Strive for any reason. I can see, ooh, that line is moving closer to my stuff. I can go in and figure out what it is I'm supposed to be doing and get that done. So I like having the dates. Without the dates on my action items, it looks like this. It's just a line, and it doesn't tell me what I'm close to because I didn't put those due dates in there. So I do recommend the due dates, even though they are optional when you create them. In addition to evidence or action items, I'm sorry, we can also add in evidence. So everything that I said I was going to do, I would like to have something that shows that I did it in some way. And there are multiple types of evidence that you can use in the system. You can do screenshots, you can do pictures, you can do links, and you can also add professional development. So I would go in, and I said I was going to create a newsletter and send it out every 3 weeks. So I could come down to my evidence section and say I want to add evidence. And in this case, I would probably upload a copy of that file, whatever that newsletter looked like. If it was something that I mailed out or sent home with kids, I could go find that file. And then after I've attached it, I would come down to the description and write what it is, how I used it, how it's related to my goal. I wish it said description/reflection, because I think that's what it really should be. Here's what I did, and here's why it's important evidence for my goal. So I would want to include that part as well. But I can do file uploads where I attach things to the evidence box and save it that way. And that piece of evidence is then viewable by my appraiser, downloadable if I need to get back to it later on. I can also add a link to something on a website. So if I had a link to, maybe I posted my newsletter on my teacher website and I just sent the link home in an email, I could put that link in there and then describe what is that example. I can also do a text box. So this is just anecdotal evidence. Today in class, this happened. Here's how I handled it. Here's how it's related to my goal, or I did this because I learned from my goal, whatever. So I could write just a little story, an anecdotal evidence in a text box, if that's the kind of thing that I have going on. And then I can also do a workshop portfolio entry. So if I said, I'm going to implement a behavior management system and I really don't know much about those, I could go in and find some professional development, and then I could attach that professional development later on. So I could go in and say, this is the workshop that I went to that I have credit for. And then I could describe, what did I learn in that session? How did I use that in my classroom? So the evidence can be part of the goal as well, because I'm saying, here's what I wanted to accomplish overall. Here are the individual steps I'm taking to get there. And here's the evidence that I actually did those steps. Doesn't have to be a one-to-one. We're not numbering them or anything like that. But, I might have one piece of evidence that applies to 2 action items, or I might have two pieces of evidence that apply to 1 action item. It doesn't really matter as long as I'm showing that I have accomplished the goal and I've done the things that I said I was going to do. Okay, what's next? So how do I use this to support my goal in terms of my own learning? We talked about adding the evidence from a workshop portfolio. How do I make sure I can find that? If I go over to my professional learning as a teacher, as a user, I'm sorry, this is what I've already taken. What I really need to go to is the course catalog. So if I go to the course catalog, I will be able to find upcoming professional development in my district, and I can scroll through the whole big list if I want to. I can jump around on the calendar and find dates when something is happening if I want to. So, I can do all of those things to get to the list. Let me get back out of here. But I can also come down to the frameworks, and I can say, I want to look at t-tests. So I'm going to look at the t-tests framework, and I am working for my area of reinforcement or refinement on classroom management. That's one of the things that I did is my prep, my research on what I should be working on. So I'm going to click on that dimension, And it shows me the sessions that my district is offering that are related to the dimension that I'm looking for. So they can search based on their needs that they identified earlier in the process. And I can go in and enroll in that course. Once I'm enrolled, I'll be able to add it to my calendar if I want to. So I can click here and have it go into my calendar. So it will remind me, because this is a face-to-face session. The little chair tells me that it's face-to-face, and I want to be able to go in and make sure I don't forget to attend that session. And then once I have attended it and received credit for it, I can go back in and add it as evidence to my goal. So I'll be able to use the information that I identified early on to write my goal, and also to find sessions, professional development sessions that are related to my goal. And so we've got some information in there that just shows you. You'll get these slides after the session is over with, so that you can go in and find those things. And then we already talked about adding that as evidence to your goal. It would be a workshop portfolio entry, and you choose the session, whatever the title was of the session you attended, and then write your description and reflection as part of that goal. We've also got some links in the presentation to articles in our online help guide that will walk you through these elements after today is over with. So you'll have some support after the fact. Okay, are we done yet? And what did we learn? This is another portion of the process that districts have a choice to include or not include. We recommend it because we think it's good to reflect on the goals, but we do have a document in our community that is called the Goal Setting and Professional Development Part 2. It's also in the reflections section of the Eduphoria community. And I think there's information here about finding that template. Once the template is in the system, the teachers just use this little drop-down menu to find their goal. So they don't have to retype it or anything. As soon as they identify that goal from the list, it's going to populate this information. It's going to put in the dimensions, the action items, the goal statement, the success criteria. So this is everything that I wrote in my goal. And then I'm going to answer some questions. Sorry about that. Answer some questions about the goal attainment process, what I would do differently, what professional development did I need or could I have used. So it's going to help me reflect on my goals. How did they go? What would I do differently next time around? Again, you may have a different kind of reflection document in your system, or you may not have one. If you don't have one that's required and you think it's helpful, you might want to talk to your appraiser about that. Appraisers, again, you could talk to your district administrators who build the process and talk about having that as a step in the process. But I think it's good to go from beginning to end, where we're planning at the beginning and we're reflecting at the end as they go through that year-long process. Are there any questions?
I don't see any questions yet, but if you do have questions, feel free to type those in the Q&A window or in the chat. That's fine. With that, I think we can go ahead and start wrapping this up. Paige, thank you. We are glad that this webinar has been able to provide you with some helpful tips and reminders about how powerful and meaningful Strive can be when talking about goals for the start of the school year. On behalf of today's team and all of Eduphoria, we would like to thank you for joining us on today's webinar about how to simplify teacher goals with Strive. Have a great day. Oh, there was one question. How do I join the Eduphoria community?
Community is actually available to everyone. It will be on the left-hand side in the navigation when you're in as an administrator. Only appraisal administrators can see it, but it's not a community like a conversation. It's a community like a file sharing system where we put out templates, and other districts can as well. But you don't have to join it. It will be there as part of your Strive.